Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of the DFS Hockey Report. It is Wednesday, November the 5th. We got a 5-game slate on our hands on the 5th. But before we get into it, we got a lot of business to take care of. If you watched this show or this stream throughout the course of last season, you'll know that we did a daily face-off, a daily head-to-head lineup challenge between Zach and myself. The loser was required to take on some sort of punishment. We joked about doing the 999 challenge. Never actually happened. So before we bring back the daily face-off, our head-to-head lineup challenge, which we want to, I made it known that Zach must at least complete some sort of punishment. And we agreed on that punishment being that Zach must shotgun a Smirnoff Ice live on the show today. So I'm going to ice Zach today. It's got to be done on the show. And I was also allowed to choose the flavor of the ice. And I went with the one that I thought would be most atrocious to shotgun on the show. So, Zach, here, I'm going to pass you something here, bud.
Oh, thank you, but no thank you. This is going to be terrible. I am not excited about this, but I have my trusty shotgun tool. So let's give this a go.
So while Zach is shotgunning this creamsicle Smirnoff Ice today, I'm going to be giving away some prizes for the Hat Trick Pick Challenge that we've had going on recently. So we had a hat trick last week with from Kiefer Sherwood. Let's see what Zach does here. Oh, you just love to see it. So Kiefer Sherwood had a hat trick last week. Anybody that participated in the Hat Trick Pick Challenge was entered to win a $25 gift card to Nation Gear. How was that, bud?
Oh, I got a sip left. It's terrible.
INF_YT. Congratulations on the $25 gift card to Nation Gear. I'll open mine and drink it with you in solidarity. I'm not shotgunning it because I didn't lose like you did, but cheers, buddy. I hope you enjoyed it. Oh, yeah, let it go.
Excuse me. All right, I got to go wash my hands really quickly because
fair enough.
Covered in Smirnoff Ice, so I will be right back.
Fair enough. All right. INF_YT. Congratulations. $25 gift card. If you're in here, please reach out to me at Brock. Oh, yeah, he's here. Woo! Congratulations. If you can reach out to me on Twitter, or if you're in the DFS Discord, reach out to me there. Now we're going to give away one for the hat trick last night. Nobody had last night's hat trick pick, so we have given away another one here today. Let's see who wins our second. Oh, man. The only two people in the chat right now were Shannon Brown and INF, and they almost both won. That would have been something else. But Tom Olson, congratulations on winning the second $25 gift card to Nation Gear to pick up some DFO swag. So if you want to participate in today's Hat Trick Pick Challenge, all you got to do is drop your Hat Trick pick in the comment section of the video on YouTube. And if anybody scores the Hat Trick, Zach is going to puke. Yeah, definitely not washing his hands. I wholeheartedly agree with you there. But finally, fun to see him pay his debts to me. Now we can resume. Hear him in the background. Now we can resume the daily face-off, and we'll have to figure out what the best punishment is for 2025. Jeff said Zach is going to puke, not wash his hands. Was he right? Or were you washing your hands?
No chundies over here. That was a lot of sugar straight to the dome, and a little bit more booze than I was expecting at 1:37 in the afternoon today. But yeah, we ride.
Just a quick story. So if anybody wants to take inspiration from this, we used to do a fantasy hockey draft where you'd pick 10 players, and you didn't make any lineup changes. Like, it was just those 10 players, goals and assists. The team that finished with the most points at the end of the season won. But how we did it was an auction draft, and the commissioner would quietly, or like not quietly, but like he would be the only one that knew, and he would have a 6-pack of ices, and he'd have one of like the big leaders of ices, and he would assign different players those ices without anybody knowing. So you would bid, and then if you picked that player that was attached to the ice, you would get ice. 3 years in a row, I kid you not. I drafted the player that was associated with the leader of ice. I was convinced he was just out to get me. I had to do it 3 years in a row. So the leader was just insane. I remember one year distinctly, it was Phil Kessel. Like, this is going back, and it was great. But now the result of Zach being lit is he plays 150 Chicago lineups in a 150 max. Yeah, I agree. That's the way to go. Best start to the show. Yeah, this was fun. Let's get back into it. Zach, we gave away our $25 gift cards. Now we got a 5-game slate to break down. We've got the Toronto Maple Leafs going most likely with Anthony Stolarz. We're projecting to see Vitek Vanacek on the second half of a back-to-back for the for the Utah Mammoth. The Washington Capitals will go with Logan Thompson up against Jordan Binnington for the Blues. The Calgary Flames will go with Dustin Wolves. It'll be Jet Greaves for the Columbus Blue Jackets. The Seattle Kraken likely going with Joey Decord. Yaroslav Askarov goes for the Sharks. And then in the final game of the night, Kevin Lankinen will face his former team, Spencer Knight, likely to start for the Chicago Blackhawks. Those are your 10 starting goals for tonight's game. Toronto hosts the Utah Mammoth. Zach, do you want to go first? You still need a breather.
Yeah, I'll take this one. No problem at all. Utah paying visit to Toronto, continuing a little bit of a road trip. Of course, they were in Buffalo last night. But tonight it is the Maple Leafs as the home favorites, minus 149 on the money line, 3.5 implied total for Toronto, 2.9 for the Utah Mammoth. Utah won, grading out as the number one line to target on the slate tonight, projecting for just 6% ownership. An interesting low number there in terms of the ownership. Matchup scores pretty bleak across the board here in this game, except for that top 6 of Utah, who break out with about an average matchup score here tonight. Top line, and that second line for Utah going to be seeing a blend of largely the second and the third line. I've got some interest in getting to this Utah side of things here tonight for sure. I think they're in an interesting spot. I mean, we've talked about some of these defensive struggles that the Toronto Maple Leafs have seen so far this season. Largely that top 6 for the Leafs defensively have been okay. That top line has kind of been getting caved in terms of some of these underlying numbers here. Still just giving up 2.1 goals against per hour versus 2.6 expected goals against. Definitely got interest in the top 6 for Utah. That second line grades out with 5.7% ownership as well. I think it'll be pretty easy to get over the field on them here tonight. On a small 5-game slate. Toronto 1 looks like they're in a pretty good spot as well here tonight. Third best line to target on this slate overall. William Nylander sliding up with Matthew Nyes and Austin Matthews. $23,200 to full stack these guys, and they're drawing like 20% ownership here tonight. I like to talk a lot about paying up to get different on slates. You're paying up, but you're not getting really different considering, a fifth of the field is stacking this Toronto top line. The matchup is pretty tough for them here. Seattle has been rock solid defensively, especially that top line for them, which has been their best by far. And of course, the Leafs are going to be playing 48% of their ice time going up against Utah 1. So, in the charts we trust, I think I'm okay coming in a little bit under the field here on this Toronto top line, just given how tough of a matchup score they have here tonight. It doesn't get a whole lot better for this second line of the Leafs either. John Tavares, Bobby McMahon, and Nick Robertson feels like they're in a little bit of a tough spot here as well. Weaker match or a little bit of a better matchup score than the top line rather, but the line stats here for the second line haven't been quite as strong as they've been for the top line of the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Yeah, it's an interesting game because of the ownership for sure. We saw Utah basically shut the Sabres down last night. According to Sports Logic, they are both these teams 14th and 16th in terms of expected goals against per 60 at 5v5. So both have been about middle of the pack defensively. Toronto doesn't feel that way. Utah actually feels like maybe they're better than that. So it's kind of interesting in that regard. I think that people are obviously getting to Toronto for the sole reason that the Utah Mammoth are on the back-to-back, I would assume, and that Vitek Vanacek is getting the start. He's been pretty damn good this year, 2.0 goals against average, 913 save percentage, 66% quality start percentage. So he's been pretty solid. Like I said, this is a Utah team that plays pretty well defensively. So the chalk is definitely interesting. And then you factor in that this is a Maple Leafs power play that's really struggled. As you see here, I've started to include. So just if you're new or you don't understand or how this is all works, the power play and penalty kill ranks are based on how good they are at generating chances and scoring. So it's like it factors in how many goals they've scored, of course, or how many goals they've allowed, of course, but it also factors in just their generation. So you want to be able to still be creating quality chances, not just getting lucky and converting on those chances. So I've included the power play conversion rate as well. The Maple Leafs, the worst conversion rate in the NHL, on the slate tonight. So, and then going up against a PK that's been pretty solid for the Utah Mammoth, middle of the pack here. So not the best power play matchup either. Like I think I'm pretty comfortable fading this Toronto chalk. Maybe not full stop, but I'm certainly not going to get to 20% at $23,200. The second line, like I don't really think I think they're a nice value option. I might look that way a little bit more just because of the value, but obviously the top line's got the best ceiling. When we take a look at the entirety of the slate tonight, Toronto won. You see why people are getting there. The projection is massive. It's very similar to what we saw for the Dallas Stars last night, right? Like they were not as popular, but they were grading out tremendously well and they were worth paying up for, and it worked out. So I'm still going to get to Toronto one, but probably not getting all the way up to 20%. I think that's kind of outrageous. The one player that I will mention from the Maple Leafs that I think is pretty interesting tonight is Oliver Ekman-Larsson. He's going to replace Morgan Riley on the top power play unit tonight. They're going to try to get that power play going, and the thing they're going to do is put Oliver Ekman-Larsson up there. So at $3,200, I think he's a really nice value option this evening on that top power play unit if it finds any success at all. He filled in pretty nicely there early in the season. But yeah, I think most of my interest definitely comes on this Utah side of things and just kind of hoping that the Maple Leafs continue to struggle defensively. This top line grades was the best line overall, just 16,900. I'm in. They had a good night last night, albeit just scoring 2 goals, but the offensive metrics are outstanding. And then the matchup is obviously quite good. So Utah 1 is firmly in play. I'll get to Utah 2 as well, but the top line grade now is the best. Again, as you mentioned earlier, in the charts, we trust. Let's get to game number 2. We've got Washington and St. Louis. The Washington Capitals minus 146 home favorites here, 3.3 implied total. They are going to be without Pierre-Luc Dubois for an extended period of time. So that moves Connor McMichael back to center at more of a permanent basis here with Protas and Tom Wilson. That line, if you've been following along this season, continues to grade out tremendously well. They grade as the second best line to target tonight at just 14,800. And also not really drawing much ownership at all. And the matchup, basically average tonight. They're going to see about 40% of their ice time against the Robert Thomas line, and then a good mix of the second and third line as well. The Robert Thomas line, really, really bad defensively so far this season. The rest of the top 9 for the Blues, quite good. So it's kind of interesting. Like, I think if they end up seeing a little bit more of this Thomas line, they can definitely have a good night. The underlying metrics here are really good. They've scored basically just as much as they've created. So this line, definitely interesting to me at just 14,800 and really not seeing much ownership to speak of. Mostly Protas being left off at $5,400. Don't mind playing him. If Michael 3,900 looks like a great value. Wilson at 9.7% ownership is the highest owned of the 3. I'm definitely going to get there. The top line, this Ovechkin, Strome, Beauvillier lines had a lot of success together so far this season as well. Problem with them is the matchup's a little bit bleaker. They're going to see a lot less of the St. Louis top line. But again, we've talked about the goaltending struggles for Jordan Binnington this year. Obviously, they looked a little bit better against the Oilers the other night, but I still think that this is a gettable team. They do grade out 7th best in terms of expected goals against. So this is a really good expected goals team that just hasn't really shown it on paper or on the ice so far this season. So I'll be heavier on the Washington Capitals for sure. On the Blues side of things, man, I don't know. Like, this Washington team has seemingly done such a nice job of keeping opponents off the board. We talk about like how, maybe the regression seems to be setting in a little bit for them offensively, but on the defensive side of the puck, Logan Thompson has been unbelievable. He leads the NHL in both goals against average and save percentage with a 151 and a 935. He also has a 100% quality start percentage, and that's in 8 starts. He has been unbelievable. He has not given up. Let's just show you. I mean, let's just take a look here together. He has not given up more than 2 goals in a start. So to me, pretty difficult to get to St. Louis the way that Logan Thompson has played, and as structurally sound as this Capitals team is. The matchups are bad. The underlying metrics are pretty good for the Blues, but this is just been a team that's been difficult to trust offensively. And then just, this is a very, very good goalie, a very solid defensive team in the Capitals, and the power play matchup is no better. So this game feels a little bit lower scoring of the 5, so I probably won't get to it a ton, but I am interested in Washington 2 specifically, a little bit of Washington 1 as well. How about you?
Yeah, definitely. Like, I mean, I really like the look of this Washington side of things here tonight. I feel pretty good getting after them here. I mean, Jordan Binnington continuing to really struggle so far this season. 868 save percentage, negative 6.4 goals saved above expected. He's also not been good against Washington in his career. I mean, he was good for one game where he had a win and a shutout, but otherwise in the 4 games played against them, 375 goals against average and an 856 save percentage. I think for that reason alone, I've said it before on this show, I'll say it again. Stacked teams going up against the St. Louis Blues because their goaltending has not been good this season. Of course, don't stack the Edmonton Oilers against them because apparently the Oilers aren't good against anybody right now this season. But it feels like a bit of a better spot here for Washington. Dylan Strome, 2 goals and 14 points in 14 games played against the Blues, and Alex Ovechkin, 21 goals and 38 points in 28 games played. So no issue here for me in getting to this capital side of things. I'll probably be off St. Louis entirely tonight because of the fact that Logan Thompson is my favorite goaltender on the slate tonight.
Willie says he imagines that the Thomas line will get better defensively as they get healthy, dominated the McDavid-Draisaitl last game. Yeah, they had a pretty good game. I wouldn't say they dominated, but yeah, they did a good job shutting down 2 of the best players in the world without question. But the defensive metrics are what the defensive metrics are. I agree that they'll probably improve a little bit, but as of right now, looking pretty bleak, and this is a very potent Washington second line at a very good price, and it's a line I'm willing to play tonight. You've got the Flames and the Blue Jackets. Before we get to that game, I got to say, I don't know how you shotgun this thing because just drinking this creamsicle thing is atrocious. It is not very tasty.
No, honestly, shotgunning it I think is the way to go.
Like, sipping on it is awful.
Yeah, get it into you quick because I think that's the only way you can do it.
I'm 5 minutes away from going to get a beer here.
Oh, I couldn't blame you at all, man. I'm not a big sugar guy. Like I like some, some sour candy here or there, but I feel like a kid in a candy store right now, man. I don't even know how much sugar was in that thing.
Just buzzing.
I'm absolutely buzzing right now. Speaking of buzzing, an interesting hockey game tonight between the Calgary Flames and the Columbus Blue Jackets. Flames slight favorites here, -110 on the money line as home favorites here. 3.1 implied total for the Flame side of things, 3.0 for the Blue Jackets. Looking at the line stacks, Columbus 1 grades out as the 4th best line to target overall tonight, drawing 9.8% ownership. Calgary not far behind. Calgary 1 specifically, 7th overall, and Calgary 2 at 8th overall. Jonathan Huberdeau sliding down to that second line. You got Joel Farabee and Connor Zary up there with Nazem Kadri on the top line, Morgan Frost and Matt Coronado on the second line. Calgary 3 grading out 13th overall as well. Maybe they're an interesting play here tonight. Modest ownership coming in on this Calgary side of things, 12% for that top line and about 6-7% for that second and third line. The matchups in this game are objectively hilarious. The Calgary Flames grading out with incredibly good matchup numbers here in this game tonight. I don't know exactly what to feel about this, considering how much offensive struggles there's been for the Flames this season. Mm-hmm. Columbus grading out extremely poor here in terms of the matchups tonight. Looking at the line stats, it's what you expect from the Calgary Flames right now. That top line is struggling to score. I don't feel great about Joel Farabee up there on that top line. I feel a little bit better about Connor Zary getting a chance up there with Kadri, but it doesn't feel like a line that I'm excited to play. That second line has maybe been a little bit better here in terms of their metrics, 2.9 goals for per hour versus 2.6 expected goals per hour. Jonathan Huberdeau and Matt Coronado, I think they make an interesting mini stack here tonight. I'm probably comfortable leaving Morgan Frost off of some of those here, but in the same breath, Frost has 4 goals and 9 points in 13 games played against the Blue Jackets in his career. Calgary 3, if you want to get down there, Michael Backlund and Blake Coleman continuing to be volume merchants, which is what you can expect from them. Good shot volume from both of these guys. Blake Coleman, 1.2 goals for per hour of ice time this season. On the Columbus side of things, that top line offensively has been awesome. They are scoring at a 4.0 goals per hour clip. They've got strong underlying metrics to kind of support that. I don't really have any issue playing some Columbus 1 tonight. I understand the matchup score is absolutely terrible, but it's not like the Flames have been a very good team this season. You know, Dustin Wolf has had some struggles this year, 12 games played, just 3 wins. He's got a 50% quality start percentage, which is decent, but he's only got an 885 save percentage and a negative 2.7 goals saved above expected. One game against the Blue Jackets last year, Dustin Wolf's first in the NHL, was a loss, 4.1 goals against average, 879 save percentage. So, as much as I trust and love and adore these charts, I think I'm comfortable getting into some of this Columbus one side here tonight. This second line grades out okay as well in terms of their line stats. They're generating a lot of, shot attempts and scoring chances, just kind of struggling to capitalize on them. Not a lot of quality looks here for that second line. Brock, where do you kind of come in on this game here? Because I think it's absolutely fascinating, especially from a matchup score perspective.
Yeah, I think that I'm a little bit more willing to get to the Flames today than I was, say, 2 weeks ago. The offense, while still bad, has come around a little bit. They averaged 1.6 goals per game, just a shade over 1.6 goals per game in their first 8. They're bang on averaging 3 goals per game in their last 6. So they haven't been quite as inept as they were earlier in the season. So yeah, I think I'm gonna just get there and again trust the charts as much as it might not feel amazing. Again, according to our friends at Sports Logic, the Columbus Blue Jackets are dead last in the league in terms of 5v5 expected goals against per 60. So the matchup is as good as it looks tonight. Denton Matejchuk out on the blue line as well. Certainly not going to help things for Columbus. And then you look at the power play. Again, Flames power play, not good, just converting at 13.5%, but they go up against a penalty kill that is killing just 67% of the penalties right now. So this is a good matchup for the Flames, and as good as it's going to get. Yes, Jack Reeves has been good, but I think that this is a case in which I would have probably let ownership dictate exactly what I was going to do. If this was a chalky Calgary spot, I'd been like, whatever. If they burn me, they burn me. Don't care. Because they're not really seeing much ownership, I kind of feel like they are a very nice chart play tonight, which has kind of been the case with the Flames over the years. I kind of agree with you that Calgary 1 doesn't feel great. They're so cheap, I don't mind full stacking them. I think most of my interest, you see a lot of the interest coming in on the Flames is just Nazem Kadri. He grades out really, really well in terms of a projection tonight. We have him as the 3rd best play overall up front at just $6,300. The value is really good there. I don't mind the idea of a Kadri Rasmus Anderson mini stack as they correlate together at 5v5 and on that power play. That's probably my preferred route on that top line. The second line, I mean, they fully correlate on the second power play, on the top power play unit. So I have no issues going Huberdeau, Coronado, Frost, Anderson, getting that full correlation on that second or on that top power play unit on that second line. Coronado, the shot volume is still there. Frost has been pretty decent as of late. Seems to be, this role seems to be growing for him. Huberdeau has really been kind of the straw that stirs the drink. The Flames' offensive success in recent games very strongly correlates with when Jonathan Huberdeau returned to the lineup. So again, $12,700. This is a very cheap line to stack tonight, one that I'm definitely interested in playing. The rest of this Blue Jackets lineup outside of the top line does not intrigue me at all. Fantilli can't get anything going. The minutes are extremely underwhelming for that second line. That third line has been leaned on heavily, but they don't really do much offensively outside of a game or two. The underlying metrics are strong, but it's not a line that I'm going to probably play in this game. So yeah, top line for Columbus is fine. You mentioned it. The Flames, they've started to score more, but in those exact same games, they've had 4 of the 6 games, they've given up more than 4 goals to the Jets, the Maple Leafs, the Senators, and the Predators. So some good, some bad offenses in there. So I do think the Blue Jackets can certainly get on the board tonight, and it's going to come largely through that top line, which also isn't drawing much ownership. But yeah, super scared to play the Flames tonight, but I think it makes sense.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's kind of a plug your nose play here tonight. I mean, it's a 5-game slate. Jet Greaves, maybe not the best goaltender in the NHL, but he's been fairly solid this season. 6 starts so far. He's got a 50% win rate in those 3 wins, 83% quality start percentage. Lots of volume he's seen, 28.9 saves per hour, 915 save percentage, 5.5 goals saved above expected. That's a little bit scary there. And Jet Greaves is coming in as the highest owned goaltender on the slate. So definitely has the opportunity here for Calgary to be a chalk busting spot.
Yeah, I think that Greaves makes a ton of sense too. Like, as much as this is a good spot for the Flames, we know they've struggled offensively. So, yeah, this does also set up perfectly for Jet Greaves to be an absolute nuke play between the pipes. Like, the volume is massive. They're terrible defensively, but if the Flames can, their finishing struggles continue, then yeah, Greaves could make 35 stops tonight and win this game 3-1. Like, it's certainly possible. Both sides, I can see both sides of it here without question. So yeah, like, I'm gonna play Calgary. I'm probably gonna play some Jet Greaves. They just won't be in the same lineup. Let's get to Seattle and San Jose. Pretty fun game here. The Seattle Kraken -155. Home favorites, just 2.8 implied total for the Sharks. So as you know, like, Seattle is a very good defensive team. We've talked about it on the show plenty. The Sharks, boy, like, this is a Sharks team that is kind of coming into their own. They've had some really nice, like, massive wins as of late in terms of 5v5 expected goals. They're still kind of towards the bottom end of the league, where Seattle is dead last. I could see this game being 2-1. Like, I could see it being kind of a shitty play. But I'm kind of hoping the Sharks can do some damage in this one. I was really holding out hope this morning that it was going to be a Matt Murray or Philip Grubauer type night for Seattle. It's not going to be the case. It's going to be Joey Daccord. So that kind of takes some of my interest away from San Jose. I talked about it the other day. I talked about it in my DFO fantasy season-long show too. Celebrini running scorching hot, but like, doesn't seem the most sustainable. If they were low owned, I'd be like, let's smash the Sharks. I will probably come in just a shade under the field here on San Jose. I just think that the Seattle team is very good defensively, and with Joey Daccord getting the start, I think it's a rough spot. And then you've got this pace score. Like, this does feel like it's not going to be a very high scoring game whatsoever. So the field seems extremely interested in it. And I think it's a pretty good fade spot. I think, again, this is another spot where I probably would have let the field kind of dictate my feelings about this game. And because it's high owned, I think it's a fade for me, because it does seem like a very good fade spot at that ownership. So I'm going to probably come in under the field here. With that being said, Seattle won. I've been very adamant about Jordan Eberle being a very good hockey player right now for this team. He's playing 19 minutes a night. He's generating a lot of looks. He's top 40 in the league in individual expected goals for. Matty Beniers, more of a pass first option, doesn't provide much of a floor. Tolvanen's been playing pretty well. Like, that top line, Seattle, grading out 11th best. The matchup is pretty good. The underlying metrics are pretty good. They don't look like it here, but when you put those three actually together, they've had pretty decent metrics before. So I think Seattle 1 is where the majority of my interest comes in this game. I want to play San Jose. I'll get there a smidge, but it's certainly not going to be 22% Macklin or 16% San Jose 1. I don't think this game's got enough, and I feel like it's a pretty nice fade spot for me. I don't know if your feelings are different. Are you getting to San Jose and Seattle?
Yeah, I think I'm okay getting to the field with a San Jose 1. 15% here on a 5-game slate. That's not an egregiously high number, I don't think. I'm okay getting there. One of the reasons for me is, like, Celebrini and Smith have had success against Seattle so far. Celebrini, a goal and 5 points in 4 games played. Will Smith, 3 goals and 5 points in 4 games played. Tyler Toffoli, 7 goals, 12 points in 14 games played. Like, they've had success going up against this Seattle team in the past. I think for that reason, I'm in a little bit, going to be out on the rest of this lineup. I mean, if you really want to get interesting, a mini stack on that third line of Michael Misa and Jeff Skinner may not be the worst option in the world. Skinner's got 8 goals and 11 points in 9 games played against Seattle. You're getting a pretty solid floor from Michael Misa at $2,700, 9.5 shots on goal per hour. He's also generating 1.9 individual expected goals per hour. Granted, it's just in 82 minutes in all situations this season, but still, a fairly solid floor there for that third line. They've got an okay matchup score and actually the best line stats of any line for the San Jose Sharks. Seattle, I kind of got bit by them a little bit. They didn't kill me the other night going up against Chicago, but they didn't necessarily help me.
Because you played the second line instead of the first line. I tried to warn you.
I played more of the second line than I did the first line, but I did have a bit of both. Jordan Eberle's been great this season. So is Jaden Schwartz. He's continued to be a really solid player for them. Yaroslav Askarov getting the start here tonight for the Sharks. One game played against Seattle in his career. It was a start on January 30th earlier this year. Got the start in the game, allowed 4 goals against on 13 shots. On 11 shots rather. 4 goals against on 11 shots, and he got yanked from the game, leaving him with a .636 save percentage and a 9.24 goals against average. I think for that reason, I've got some interest in getting to the Seattle side of things. Probably be a little bit under the field on that top 6. Willing to meet the field on San Jose 1, and probably mini stack that Skinner-Misa duo. That kind of seems like an interesting pivot option here tonight.
Yeah, just to give you an idea, Celebrini, Smith, Toffoli, their actual numbers together this year in 104 minutes, just a 1.9 expected goals for per 60. They're scoring at 4.0. So they've been punching above their weight class, and I think it's a decent fade spot at the ownership. To your credit, I do like Michael Misa, though. I think he's done the underlying metrics for him as an individual have been pretty strong in very limited minutes. And at $2,700, I think you could certainly do worse. And like you said, with Skinner, even Ethan Cardwell, decent young hockey player. I think they're an okay kind of just complete throw of the dart in a super deep tournament, but nothing more than that. Let's get to game number 5. The Vancouver Canucks hosting the Chicago Blackhawks. Take it away.
Yeah, we've got Connor Bedard returning to Vancouver once again here. Canucks is the home favorites, -153 on the money line, 3.3 implied total for Vancouver, 2.7 for the Blackhawks. Looking at the line stacks in this game, Vancouver 1 grading out as the best, as 5th best line to target. Elias Pettersson, Connor Garland, and Evander Kane up there on that top line. Chicago 1 grading out 10th best overall. Vancouver 2.
Can I interrupt just for 1 minute? So Connor Garland is expected to be back tonight. They did not run line rushes this morning. They ran the power play. So the power play is the only thing I know for sure is correct if Garland plays. The lines themselves are strictly just projected, a total guess. Before Garland got hurt, he was kind of like the skeleton key that's kind of unlocked Elias Pettersson. So I imagine that they'll put him back up there, and Kiefer Sherwood has been more of a third line role player for them. So I imagine that and you're probably not breaking up DeBrusk, Reichel, and Besser either with the game they just had. So that lineup makes the most sense to me. I just wanted to throw it out there. If you're planning on building around Vancouver, just know that you might want to leave some pivot options.
Great point. Thank you for that. Kind of an interesting game here. Obviously the Canucks fairly heavy favorites here in this game. Solid matchup scores across the board for this Vancouver side of things, grading around the mid 60s or so. Chicago also drawing some really good matchup scores. They're actually better on the Chicago side of things than they are on the Vancouver side of things. The line stats for both of these teams are pretty bleak. Middling offenses and not very great defenses. It kind of feels like this is a game that kind of has the potential for being a bit of a higher scoring game. Evander Kane finally gets on the board with a pair of goals the other night, getting bumped up alongside Elias Pettersson there. Him, Pettersson, and Garland have all had individual success against Chicago in their careers. Jake DeBrusk, you were talking about him the other day too. He has been tremendous as of late. His floor is awesome. 10 shots on goal per hour of ice time, 1.4 individual expected goals, scoring at just half of that rate, and shooting just 7% on the season. So I think there's some reason to get to this Vancouver side of things. You got the Lucas Reichel revenge game narrative here as well tonight. This Chicago side of things, I'll probably get there with a little bit of ownership around Bedard and Andre Burakovsky. They have been solid so far this season. This second line is also looking like they're in an okay spot, especially from a matchup score perspective. Drawing the best matchup score of any of the top 6s here in this game tonight. Really low ownership coming in on the Chicago side of things. If you're willing to plug your nose and play them, I don't think it's a terrible option on this slate tonight. Kevin Lankinen has been fine this season. 5 starts, just 2 wins, 2 quality starts in both of his wins so far. But he does have an 885 save percentage, 1 saving grace for Lankin, and his career numbers have been tremendous going up against Chicago. 4 wins in 4 games played, a 196 goals against average, and a 936 save percentage. But in the same breath, Spencer Knight has also been really good. 2 wins in 3 games played against Vancouver, 126 goals against average, and a 957 save percentage. I think there's some reason to kind of get some ownership here on this Vancouver side of things. I'm not entirely sure if I love them at, 12, 13, 15% as they're kind of drawing here for this top 6. Where do you kind of come in on this one here, Brock?
Yeah, the exact same thing I felt about the Nashville Vancouver game the other day is true about this game. I think that it's kind of gross on the surface, but when you look into the numbers a little bit, it does feel like, again, it's got some of that sneaky high event upside. Both these teams don't grade out particularly great defensively. Chicago much better than Vancouver. Vancouver bottom 4 in the league. Problem is they're 27th and 31st in terms of expected goals for per 60. Chicago, again, grading out marginally better there. It's the same story with Chicago. I'm literally only playing Bedard and Burakovsky. I'm not playing that second line. I don't care. The metrics are terrible. I'm not going there. Bedard, Burakovsky, good metrics together. Burakovsky's game has been rounding into form, a little bit more volume as of late. I don't mind that mini stack. I played him the other night with success. I'll do it again. That's the only line I'll play there. Vancouver, it obviously all depends on the lines. But both these top 2 lines look like they're in just terrific spots tonight. Evander Kane, shot volume's great. Connor Garland was phenomenal before he got hurt. Then obviously DeBrusk, Besser, and you mentioned the Lucas Reichel revenge narrative. He was a guy that literally was just healthy for 4 years in Chicago. He probably cannot wait. He's playing 60 minutes a night in Vancouver. I'm sure he's just itching for this game to start. So I'll get there as well. I do like the Vancouver side of things in this game a little bit more. But I do think there's room for Chicago 1 to have some success. And I do think, once again, this has some really sneaky upside as a potential high-scoring game. The power plays for Vancouver grades out the best overall. The Blackhawks PK just literally getting by the skin of Spencer Knight's teeth. They grade out the 25th ranked penalty kill, which is actual goals plus expected goals against together, weighted, of course. But killing 80% of their penalties just means that they're giving up a shitload of chances, but Spencer Knight is just standing on his dome. I don't actually have his penalty kill save percentage in front of me, but I'm sure it's outrageous, and I'll get to it in a moment. So yeah, it's a good power play for the Canucks. I think it's a good spot for the Canucks power play. This is a Blackhawks team that takes 4 times shorthanded per game. So of anybody on the slate tonight, Vancouver projected for the most power plays this evening. And then obviously, if Spencer Knight has a slightly off night, is a power play that can absolutely crush this evening. So like I said, if you want to just be like, you know what, forget the lines, let's just see what the power play is, because that's what we know is legit. It's a mix of the top 2 lines. Potentially, you got Pettersson, Garland if they play together there. You've also got DeBrusk and Besser there with Quinn Hughes. So I like both those top 6 lines to have a solid night on the power play. And then when you take a look at the second power play unit, I don't really know why you would ever take the first unit off the ice, to be quite honest with you. They are projected for 76% of the power play time tonight, which makes a ton of sense there. Did I sway you in any way, or are you steadfast in your love for Chicago too?
Maybe sway me a little bit. I mean, they are drawing only 3.
I've been trying for a month. Yeah, no, I get it.
I don't think I'm going to get there very much tonight, but I mean, I think I could tolerate a Frank Nazar, Tyler Bertuzzi mini stack in a lineup if I'm 20 max in here tonight.
I will give Frankie Nazar credit in terms of an individual expected goals standpoint. He's been very good, very good. The problem is his line mates are shit. It's like, he's a good young player. He's terrific. He's just kind of being dragged down by a couple of veteran anchors there that just don't generate not enough play drivers on that line. And he can't do it by himself. So I'll give him credit where it's due. I don't mind a Nazar one-off. Full stacking that line just continues to be a thing that doesn't interest me all that much. Any final thoughts on this game or any of these games before we get to the defensemen and the goalies?
Well, let's talk about some of these blue liners.
All righty, let's get right into it. I already mentioned an affinity for Oliver Ekman-Larsson tonight, given that he is up on that top power play unit. But Brandon Montour grades out just spectacular yet again. No surprise there. Rasmus Anderson at $4,200, top power play unit. We like the Flames tonight. I don't know why, but we do. He's projected for the highest ownership of the night. Not really surprising. Mackenzie Weegar, bit of a disappointing year thus far, but he's been relatively unfortunate. $4,800. I think it just makes more sense to play Anderson for the $600 savings, but you do get a good floor from both of them. Dmitry Orlov grades out spectacular for some reason, so sure. Sure, you could play him. Colton Parayko continues to do a lot of just everything on the ice. Dante Fabro, I think, is intriguing tonight with Denton Matejchuk out. We're projecting to see Fabro move back up the lineup and play with Zach Werenski. So I imagine that we'll see Fabro north of 20 minutes yet again this evening. Guys like Mario Ferraro and stuff, like they're great in these high event games against Seattle. Lower event game, I'm not sure the block volume is necessarily going to be there for him this evening. Let's just see. Is there anybody that grades out just spectacularly well? No, mostly just the guys we've talked about, eh? Oliver Ekman-Larsson, McCabe's still always in play. How about you? Anybody?
Yeah, I mean, I love Montour here tonight. I think he's been just a tremendous play all season long. Great underlying numbers in terms of his shot and block volume, and he's putting up points too. Kind of funny thing about Dmitry Orlov there. I was just looking at it, pulled it up really quickly. Over his last 10 games played, he's got 7 assists.
That's why he grades out well tonight.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's a really impressive metric. It doesn't really do a whole lot else out there, but he finds a way to get some apples. So if you're playing any of those San Jose stacks, not a terrible option there. Paying up for Zach Werenski at 8K, I think is a fine play tonight. There's certainly value to be had here on this slate tonight. So don't mind that move there. Martin Feravari just always seems to grade out like decently well. Continues to play on that top pairing for the Washington Capitals.
That is who he plays for, correct. A couple of things. Is the pace in the Calgary game high? So is that a power play stack or line 1, line 2, line 3? Is this creamsicle getting to me, or am I having a hard time reading this question? Is the pace in the Calgary game high? So is that a PP stack or line 1, line 2, line 3?
I think he's asking if it's a preferable like power play stacks or 5-on-5 stacks.
Both, because they both grade out well. I think like the way you look at it, I kind of broke it down. Like Calgary 2 fully correlates on the top power play unit. You've got Kadri and Anderson as a mini stack option on that top power play unit as well. Like those are my 2 preferred routes. So they kind of have 5v5 and power play exposure. And I think both sides of the coin there are in good spots this evening. Let's get to the goalies. Yeah, as Willie said, it's an everything stack. That's true, which is just insane. Like I'm so ready to be hurt by the Calgary Flames tonight. And it's not the first time we've said that on this show. That's for sure. Okay, let's get to the goalies. Just going to make this a little bigger. Anthony Stellaris, once again, grades as the number 1 goalie to target. He was pretty good the other night. Still gave up 3 goals, though. I don't know how I feel about it. Yeah, man, Jack Greaves, like he stands out obviously as a good play. As much as I like the Flames tonight, I agree with you, man. Logan Thompson is probably my favorite. I have a little bit of volume concern there, but like the rest of these goalies feel pretty risky, and he doesn't.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, as much as the volume is a bit of a concern for Logan Thompson, making just 21.6 saves per hour of ice time this season, you mentioned it. He hasn't given up more than 2 goals against the game. And his numbers against St. Louis have been good. 5 wins in 6 games played, 246 goals against average, and a 906 save percentage. Like, I mean, fire me up. Like, I'm fine playing him at 8K tonight. He's probably my favorite play on this slate. Like, and honestly, I really don't mind the idea of playing Spencer Knight here at $7,200. Like, he's been tremendous this season. 6 quality starts in 9 starts this season. 11.4 goals saved above expected. He has been so good. For me, like I think a lot of my ownership is kind of going to be between Logan Thompson and Spencer Knight. Like there's just nobody else on this slate that like really jumps out to me except for like maybe Joey Decord, who I think I'll get some ownership of as well. Despite being $8,400, there's nobody else that really jumps out to me as like a really solid goaltending play. I feel like I could trust tonight.
Yeah, I agree. Logan Thompson averaging 21 saves a game, but still can get you like 16 points if it gives up one goal and they get the win. So yeah, I agree. And yeah, Spencer Knight, like I do think this is a Vancouver team. I bet the Blackhawks this morning. So I do think this Blackhawks team can certainly win that at $7,200. I'm fine with that. I even think Askarov to a certain extent, like that Seattle team's offense is so inept. I think Askarov could make some sense at 7K. If you're dumpster diving, those two guys are fine. But yeah, Logan Thompson looks great. Zach got a good call on Knight. He's been amazing. Yes, he is. All right, let's get to the top stacks of the night. Then we'll get to our hat trick pick challenge. Utah won. Great notice, number one line of target. Don't think we talked about them enough. I think at that ownership spot of just 6%, they make a ton of sense. I'm interested for sure. Same with Washington too. Like it's a real charts night tonight. Utah 1, Washington 2, lower owned, grading out really well. Calgary grading out really well at lower ownership. So we should be positioned well if the charts are right to have a big night this evening. But the top 10 is Utah 1, Washington 2, Toronto 1, Columbus 1, Vancouver 1, Washington 1, Calgary 1, Calgary 2, Utah 2, and Chicago 1, rounding out the top 10. In terms of ownership tonight, we got Toronto 1, San Jose 1, Seattle 1, Vancouver 1, Vancouver 2, Calgary 1, Washington 1, Seattle 2, Columbus 1, and Toronto 2, rounding out the top 10. Zach, I'm going with the Lucas Reichel hat trick tonight. How about you?
Spicy. I like it.
Would be so sick.
That would be unbelievable.
I'd be so happy.
He's got one already this season. Let's go with Nick Schmaltz.
Oh, Nick. Yeah, that line looks pretty good.
He's been great this year, man. He really has. Like his numbers have been tremendous.
Brother, the DFO Fantasy Show, our podcast for season long, we've been talking about Nick Schmaltz for like 5 years. Like he's never high owned. He's a great player, but this year he's different, bro. His shot volume is fantastic. It's just way better than it's ever been. He can score. Contract year for Schmaltz, as Jim B points out. Yeah, I mean, that always seems to add fuel to the fire. Let's say thank you to our friends at rotogrinders.com for providing projected ownership for today's show. If you want to get $20 off your first month of Roto Grinders Premium, the link in the description of the video will help you do so. We've also got a link to Action Network Premium, 20% off Action Network if you want to up your betting game. And then obviously, we got the link to the DFO DFS Discord down there if you want to join the Discord. That's where we post these charts. They are posted a couple hours, maybe an hour before we go live. You can check them out there. So join the Discord. We also just chat DFS plays all day, especially leading up to lock. And then during warm-ups, if there's any crazy lineup changes, usually myself or somebody in there will alert you that the lineups have changed, especially helpful tonight with the Vancouver Canucks kind of in question. So yeah, that's going to do it. Zach, thank you for finally paying your dues. Sometime in the near future, either tomorrow, Friday, or Monday, the daily face-off, the head-to-head lineup challenge, will now return now that Zach is debt-free. And yeah, I guess for the rest of the year, we're going to have to think of something we can do on the show as a quality punishment. Like somebody said you should do a shoey. I think I let you off the hook a little easy with a creamsicle shotgun, but maybe that was just me like preemptively taking it easy on myself if I lose this year.
That's fair enough, honestly.
All right. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Smash that like button. Hit the subscribe button so you never miss an episode. We'll see you back here tomorrow for I think it's 11 games on Thursday. Let's check it out. No, just 9. Nice, easy slate. Talk to you tomorrow. Till then, cheers. Creamsicle cheers.